The show. I'm Graham Richardson, sitting in for Christy Cameron on Ottawa Now on this Tuesday. I hope you're having a good day. Dr. Raywat Deonandan is an epidemiologist and science communicator at the University of Ottawa. He joins us on the line. Good to hear from you. How are you feeling about where Ottawa stands right now with 20-some-odd new cases today and fairly low hospitalization rates?
Ottawa has always been doing well. We're doing well now relative to the rest of the province, and we'll continue to do well. So we're among the better performers among cities. That has a lot to do with the compliance of our population and the good leadership we have from public health.
Heading into, so we've got this week-long sort of extension of the stay-at-home, and then after that, it's where are we, and then the reopening. How do you think this reopening will differ from previous ones like last spring, or will it?
I don't see that it will differ. There are a couple of unknowns. One is, of course, the presence of the new variant that raised the stakes. And the other is the fact that some people are vaccinated. Not a lot, but some, especially at long-term care centers. So maybe while we probably see an increase in cases, maybe the death rate won't be as comparable. But it's unclear. The other thing, too, is that we're going all in on the school openings, it looks like. So that's going to be another great unknown.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're opening.
Right.
Right. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the grades are opening, not just the younger ones.
That's right.
So if that's the case, then we'll probably see some more school-based transmission. The great unknown, again, is there's disagreement among the experts about whether or not schools are pandemic accelerators or whether or not they just reflect what's in the community. Mm-hmm. We don't know that. We won't know it until we actually investigate it. And our contract tracing regimen really isn't set up to answer that question because asymptomatic index cases aren't detected unless we do surveillance in schools. So they may end up driving cases higher. They may not. So again, great unknowns happening here. It's all a bit of a gamble to my mind, and I keep going back to the new variants because that is a threat that we really haven't quantified well. And across the province, we really don't have our screening systems in place. We don't have good guidance around what to do if there is an outbreak of one of the new variants. So our ducks aren't all in a row, as far as I can tell, provincial-wide. I mean, in Ottawa, we're doing better than most, but across the province. I expected, and I've learned that I'll be wrong. So there's no absolutes in a pandemic, it seems. Like, you can pick a right path, but sometimes even that path seems to be the wrong one. But I did assume when I saw Roberta Place in Barrie that would not be the last, that it would be, there would be other large blow-ups like that of the variants somewhere in the province. And we have seen it, but we haven't seen that kind of an event again. Should we be surprised by that or not? Surprised that it hasn't happened yet. Well,
yes.
It's unclear. The fact that there was a big rush on to immunize so many long-term care centers was a big plus. Yeah. And the UK variant does respond well to the vaccines that we have. And so that might have hardened those more vulnerable places in a good way. Now, some nursing homes, some retirement homes rather, have not been inoculated, and so those are at risk still. So I would not be surprised if we do see that happening again in those scenarios, unless we get vaccination done in those places as well. Yeah. Keep in mind that the new variants aren't the dominant variant yet. They probably will be in a couple months, in which case a whole new dynamic here. The chief medical officer of Toronto said it best. We're actually dealing with two pandemics now, the COVID classic and the new variant, and they're distinct diseases in some ways. Mm-hmm. And we haven't really seen the new variants express their power yet.
I just before we came on air, I looked at a chart in Quebec on long-term care deaths, and there appeared to be quite a dip, and it's not proven, but there was speculation that inoculation, those vaccinations may be having an impact. Is it too early to say that absolutely? Or if you've got vaccines that are at 95%, surely that's going to have some impact on the death rate of the most vulnerable.
Yeah, so it's always too early to say things absolutely because, as you noted, nothing is absolute anymore in this pandemic. But it seems highly likely, to my way of thinking, that vaccination is playing a significant role in the reduction of the death rate and the hospitalization rate. But prior to our vaccination rollout in late December, early January, a large and significant proportion of national hospitalization was in the non-long-term care population.
Fair.
So
Yeah.
we're not out of the woods by a long shot. It's just that that particular very vulnerable population is now well protected, thank God.
Do you watch this closely? My understanding pre the Pfizer shutdown, my understanding from city officials, from provincial officials, was that the Pfizer supply was quite solid from December on. And if that is the case and they do hit their targets into Canada and we get this delivery by March of 6 million and then all the millions more heading into April, May, and June. What does that do? And what do you think that does to our lives in terms of the pandemic? Do we know yet?
Well, we don't know yet, but we can make good educated guesses. If we get sufficient supply by summer, then we can start experiencing semblances of normal by the summer. Not full normal, but semblances of normal.
So what would not be normal?
Okay, so herd immunity, we think, kicks in 70, 80% with the new variants, possibly higher than that. So we can't take all the mitigation strategies down until that's achieved. But we get herd effects as we approach 30, 40, 50%, and especially if we're targeting certain groups that are the most vulnerable as we are. So the things that would fall away would be things like limits on gatherings. Mm-hmm. Different businesses would open with a bit more confidence. The mask will probably stay with us for a while. Distancing will stay with us for a while, but we wouldn't have lineups in front of grocery stores, for example. So one by one, the mitigation strategies will fall. I anticipate that if we get that vaccination supply, as you noted, as anticipated, maybe we'll have something resembling a normal-ish Canada Day, at least barbecues, fairly confident and comfortable outdoor gatherings. Maybe not indoor parties yet, but I anticipate we'll probably have public schools in session in person in the fall. We'll have high school sports in the fall with some caveats, no social gatherings before and after, and probably controls over the dressing rooms. And we'll have something resembling a normal Christmas. But again, these things like the travel industry won't go back to full normal for a couple of years because the world hasn't been vaccinated yet. Yeah. So it's going to take some time. But yeah, we're starting to see the lifting of these endeavors. As my colleague David Fisman says, pandemics have a beginning, middle, and an end, and we're probably past the middle at this point.
That's something I've been talking about too. That the cynicism in the public, because they've been inundated with such horrible news. They don't even want to hear that we might be halfway through this and heading towards the end, but we are, because they have ends.
That's right. We're near the end, and we hear the caveats that yes, the new variants are here, and some of the vaccines don't respond to them. And that's true, but we have the tools to refine the vaccines and give booster shots by the end of the year if needed. So now that we have the technologies and the wherewithal to harden ourselves against the arms race that this disease poses, then I don't think society will be shutting down again after the end of this year. Just that we probably have to have additional vaccinations as This disease becomes endemic. So people should take heart that this is not an interminable situation. We're going to have to go through a really hard couple of months. In fact, January, February are probably going to be the worst parts of the pandemic, but it's going to get easier after that.
And you did not mention crowds, sporting events, concerts. That's probably, with all travel, one of the last things, or?
Yeah, I would say that large crowds like that probably are not advisable for another year. I could be wrong. I mean, the Americans are probably going to try that, and they're well ahead of us.
They already have.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the other. Like, I mean, you're looking at the actual epidemiology of this. Like, the politicians and the public, right? I mean, they're like the tolerance for risk and death in the United States and the amount of media we consume from the United States has an impact on everything that we do, everything we throw at government, all of our perceptions. And this one is just, I mean, you look at the Super Bowl celebration in Tampa. I looked at Tampa had 10,000 cases in a day last week. And
Yeah.
Tampa alone, that county, you know, and I just think they view this differently. They accept more risk, they accept more death, and this individualism there is really showing itself in a worldwide pandemic with so many Americans dying.
Many things become normalized quite easily. And in future pandemics, and there will be future pandemics, it's pretty clear that we need more than just epidemiologists and economists at the table. We also need social psychologists, some cultural studies people, some media technology people to understand the impact of media on public tolerance and so forth. So the world is more complicated in many ways, and we need a diverse set of perspectives and tools to deal with it. But yeah, you make an excellent point. We are not Americans. We have a different ethic and mindset for the most part. And it's kind of dangerous if we're digesting their ethic and perceiving it as our own, and it isn't.
Well, and I think it's good to remember they're out of it faster, but there are way more deaths there. And I'm not making excuses for the government. I think the vaccine rollout's been botched, and it's been slow and unacceptably slow. I think that's been established. But at the same time, I mean, Ontario, 14.5 million people, we hit 4,000 cases in one day, and that was like shocking to the point of like the support for the shutdown was overwhelming because of the cases. Thankfully, they've come down, but it just goes to show you the difference in approach between the two countries.
Yeah, and also the difference in how we value our old people.
Yeah. Raywat Deonandan, always great to talk to you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
All right.